Chapter 343, Fifth Oldest Translator, Reverie. Editor Han stood off to the side, feeling a faint sting in his right eye. It was because his cultivation was still insufficient, and after employing the Eye of Truth for only a short while, discomfort naturally surged up. He immediately activated the indestructible Heaven Scroll, and as that supreme art circulated through him, his right eye quickly recovered. After all, he had only used it briefly, but if he were to maintain it for a longer stretch, then it definitely wouldn't recover so easily. Ao Jiancheng no longer had the face to remain. He had no chance to make the top 10 anyway, so he naturally turned and left. Otherwise, wouldn't he become a laughingstock to others? Everyone looked at Ling Han with shock in their eyes. This fellow had made his mark with this victory. The seven sons of Ao family were unquestionable prodigies among the younger generation. Although above them were spiritual pedestal tier warriors, all of those people were over 30 years old. In the world of marital arts, 30 years of age was the demarcation between the young and the mature. You were young below 30 and mature above. Of course, the boundaries had to be renewed after crossing into the flower blossom tier, when martial artists' lifespan greatly increased. It could be imagined that after today's exam, the entire Winter Moon sect would be in a commotion, and the old monsters that stayed hidden for a long time could appear, fighting over this exceedingly talented guy to become their direct disciple. Now the battles for top 10 will be carried out, the formidable spiritual pedestal tier said. Only the 10 of you remain. Each person has to fight the other 9 once. A win marks 3 points, a draw marks 1 point, and a loss marks none. Each battle will be at most a little over half an hour, and if it runs out, that would be treated as a draw. Start! He swept Ling Han a glance, somewhat irked, but Ling Han's talent was too freakish. It didn't matter even if he was annoyed. In a few years, Ling Han's cultivation might surpass him to the point where he could only look up to him. In the martial arts world, only cultivation and strength mattered. Who would look at age and experience? Everyone chose opponents with caution. There was a strategy to this. For example, if one could originally rank in the middle, but encountered a formidable foe right away and ended up heavily injured, then one's rank might end up at the bottom. After entering top 10, the reward they received would be much better with every rank, so everyone naturally wanted to scoop up more points. Ling Han was too strong, and Ao Xinglai was probably the only one qualified to be his opponent, so most people wanted to avoid him, facing him and Ao Xinglai as the last 2 opponents. But how could this be possible? Ao Xinglai also didn't decide to challenge Ling Han first, and instead picked another person as an opponent. Amongst the top 10, 6 were from the Ao family, so Ling Han picked one at random. The chance of encountering Ao family's men reached 2/3. His opponent was Ao Jian, who ranked 5th. Everyone called him Ao the 5th, or 5th eldest Ao. Ao Jian did not dare to be careless. He stepped forward with a stern expression, sword held in his hand. Ling Han smiled faintly, a baleful glint gathering in his eyes. He had no positive feelings toward anyone of the Ao family, so if he caught one, he would give them a fierce beating. If he weren't at the Winter Moon sect, he would definitely drag the 5th eldest into the Black Tower. Whether he would merely imprison him or kill him, that would be entirely up to his mood. Ao Jian didn't waste breath on superfluous words and directly struck with an ultimate move. As the sword thrust out, unexpectedly, a full 6 flashes of sword chi shot forth without hindrance. The 7 sons of Ao family ruled the roost in the younger generation of the Winter Moon sect. They certainly could not be underestimated. One only had to look at those 6 flashes of sword chi to know. In the Rain Country, even the older generation of sword users did not have such strength. The number of sword chi represented one's comprehension of the sword path. Ling Han opened the Eye of Truth, surged forward, and forcibly slipped through the gaps amid Ao Jian's attacks, arriving with ease before Ao Jian, whose gaze was filled with disbelief. Pa! 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 He struck him in the face. With each punch he threw, Ao Jian spat out a mouthful of blood together with a cracked tooth. Ling Han delivered a total of 32 punches, and Ao Jian likewise spat out 32 mouthfuls of blood and 32 broken teeth. Peng, when Ling Han threw the final punch, Ao Jian was sent flying in a parabolic arc, crashing heavily onto the ground and passing out on the spot. What? Everyone drew in sharp breaths of astonishment. The saying went, beat someone but not their face. Yet, Ling Han deliberately beat the face. That was far too vicious, wasn't it? Martial artists wanted face the most, not to mention proud figures like the 7 sons of Ao family. However, the two who had fought hand-to-hand against Ling Han had all of their teeth cleared out. Would this lead up to a death feud? He was too vicious. Yokai. Yu involuntarily touched his own face, feeling even more fortunate that he had only lost 3 teeth. Ling Han said he wanted to be friends with him, and it was quite true. Yet something still felt off. This fight ended extremely quickly. From the very start of the battle, Ling Han had overwhelmingly slapped Ao Jian 32 consecutive times, so fast it was like a gust of wind. After that wind blew past, the battle's outcome was already decided. That's spiritual pedestal tier overseer's expression turned somewhat gloomier. This was the 2nd son of the Ao family to have all his teeth cleared out. Ao Feng would definitely hold a grudge against him for this since he was the supervisor. This was an undeserved catastrophe, making him feel even more displeased with Ling Han. Ling Han didn't care about such things and abruptly sat down to recover some of the origin power he had expended. In truth, he really hadn't expended much origin power. He only put on the show so that he would appear a bit more normal. It was mainly to ease the soreness in his eyes. Activating the Eye of Truth 2 times in a row placed some pressure on him. The indestructible Heaven Scroll was already circulating, and the discomfort in his eyes vanished quickly. But this time, it was a little slower than the first. Half an hour later, all the battles concluded, and everyone changed opponents, battling again. This time, Ling Han's opponent wasn't one of the 7 sons of Ao family, and it wasn't a Winter Moon sect disciple either. It was Yang Chong, the little overlord's spear. Brother Han, how could such a strong person like you have no reputation and suddenly pop out today? Yang Chong unfurled his 6-meter-long silver spear. The spear's body was like clear one, pointing at Ling Han and releasing a terrifying, baleful aura. Ling Han smiled slightly and said, "Can't I just cultivate wholeheartedly and make my mark with one brilliant feat? Then Brother Han's restraint is truly worthy of admiration." Yang Chong took sudden large strides and charged toward Ling Han, wielding the spear like a long rod as he savagely swept it horizontally. The gust of wind whistled as if a silver dragon, rolling into rippling waves of gust. Ceaseless explosive sounds rang out along with it. This spear's speed broke through the speed of sound. Ling Han gathered power into his punch and smashed it into the body of the spear. Hong! His fist struck the spear's body, and in an instant, his entire body shook violently. Every inch was an advantage. This long spear swept across, not only carrying Yang Chong's full strength, but also maximizing the force within the motion. Unless Ling Han's power far surpassed Yang Chong's, this was the only outcome from receiving it head-on. In contrast, Yang Chong's thenar space split open and blood seeped out. However, he immediately shifted the sweep into a thrust, stabbing straight toward Ling Han's chest. To sweep the long spear again like a rod required ample room to rotate it, and if he were to sweep again, it would give Ling Han plenty of time to recover. So how could that be a smart move? Thus, he thrust the spear. This was a follow-up move, and one of the strongest moves in Overlord Spear Art. Chapter 344, Little Overlord Spear, translator Reviri Kurisu Ling. Han's body was terrifyingly tough. After forging the rock cliff body, his flesh was like cliffstone, difficult for sharp steel to bite into. Yet the heart of Yang Chong's strike was not the edge, but the quake that surged within, as though it meant to rattle his whole frame apart. It was like this. A sword hacking at a boulder might only spit sparks. The rock would remain unscarred, while the blade's edge might curl and ruin itself. But if one swung a hammer to smash it, then the boulder could very well be beaten into shattered rubble. That was precisely the situation now. A wound opened at once on Ling Han's hand, and his entire right arm flushed crimson. Blood had soaked through his clothing. Ling Han bared his teeth. He had been a little too proud, believing that once he achieved the rock cliff body, he could look down upon those of the same tier. This blow gave him a harsh lesson. He reached out with his left hand and seized the spear's tip. Impudent, Yang Chong snorted coldly. His sobriquet was Little Overlord Spear. Who in this world could dare to snatch his spear? He drove the spear forward with savage force. Pooh, pooh, pooh. 6 strands of spear chi erupted, condensing into 6 silver spearheads that stabbed toward Linghan's shoulder, throat, chest, and face. Linghan's lips curled faintly. Would he suffer a second time? Fist chi burst out, and 6 silver fists formed, blasting straight into the oncoming spear chi. Peng, 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 peng. Dull booms rolled out as spearheads and silver fists collided. It could clearly be seen that the spearheads were completely erased, while the silver fists still retained some remaining power, continuing onward for a short distance before being snuffed out by the gale stirred by the long spear. Hiss, everyone was shaken. What was chi? It was power fused with martial intent. Without matching comprehension of the martial Dao, chi could not be strong. Yet with only comprehension and no power, chi also could not be strong. Therefore, the collision of chi was the simplest, most unadorned clash, one that could not be faked. It was a head-on collision of raw strength. Linghan's chi forcibly suppressed Yang Chong's spear chi. What did that prove? Savage. What's even more astonishing is that the spear triggered Yang Chong's spear chi. That spear is a spirit tool, right? Yet Han Ling's punch, launched completely bare-handed, could suppress the spear chi fired by it. This proves Han Ling's martial intent is far above Yang Chong's. Someone saw even deeper. There was no doubt. These were elites among the Winter Moon Sect's younger generation, possessing sharp eyes and clear judgment. This monster. He's only 19. Wait until he reaches 29. What heights would he reach? He might even be recruited by a great power in the middle state, like Jushuan was. Pa. He advanced by relying on medicinal pills anyway. Most were stunned, but some sneered, believing all of Linghan's achievements came from medicinal pills. If they too could be fostered by endless pills, they would definitely be stronger than Linghan. These people were obviously jealous. Linghan gripped the spear tip. Rockcliffe body layered atop origin power guarded his hand, and vein-like lines spread across it, shining brightly. Yang Chong yanked at the spear, only to find it as though rooted in Linghan's palm, utterly unmoving. A vicious light surfaced in his eyes. He stopped pulling, and instead poured all his strength into the spear, pressing it straight toward Linghan. He did not believe that, under such a thrust, Linghan could still stand as though nothing happened while holding the spear with bare hands. One had to know that his spear was a 4th-tier spirit tool. Linghan snorted and snapped his right arm, forcibly knocking the spear aside. Yang Chong had been pouring all his strength in, so when the resisting force vanished, he immediately pitched forward uncontrollably. Linghan raised his right fist and held it straight up, placing it directly along the track of Yang Chong's headlong charge. Yang Chong's expression changed drastically. If he crashed into it, it would look like he was ramming his own face into Linghan's fist, but he had just thrust forward with full strength. How could he possibly halt that momentum? Teng, teng, teng. His steps came fast, and he slammed right into Linghan's fist. To everyone watching, the scene was unbelievably strange. Linghan had raised his fist long ago, and Yang Chong seemed possessed, driving his face into it of his own accord. Moreover, he did it with all his might. As cheek and fist were about to meet, everyone shut their eyes, unable to bear the sight. This was an obvious tragedy. Yang Chong's face contorted. He didn't want to, but he truly couldn't stop. Peng, his face smashed heavily into Linghan's fist, and under the violent impact, he spun rapidly to one side, nearly snapping his neck. Fortunately, with that external force, he could finally control his body. He hurriedly stamped down with his feet, forcibly stopping the momentum. But how could a face compare to a fist? Not to mention Linghan's fist had been tempered by the indestructible Heaven's Scroll, hard as stone. The outcome of this head-on exchange was that the right side of Yang Chong's cheek swelled grotesquely, making him look like a pig's head. One side was pig head swollen, the other side perfectly normal. Seeing such a sharp contrast, people couldn't help it. Quite a few burst into laughter. Linghan also laughed. Junior brother Yang is truly bold and fierce, actually using your face to strike my fist. My respects. My respects. Could junior brother Yang be planning to abandon the spear and cultivate the legendary iron-faced art? Being mocked like this, Yang Chong was naturally furious, but no matter how one looked at it, it truly appeared he used his face to ram Linghan's fist. Ling Han hadn't moved in the slightest. Yang Chong was the one who charged into it of his own accord. Damn it, this damned bastard! Yang Chong steadied himself, brandished the silver spear, and said, The outcome hasn't been decided yet. Don't get happy too soon. You can argue so reasonably while looking like a pighead. Junior brother Yang's legendary iron-faced art is already somewhat accomplished. Ling Han continued to ridicule him. Damn it! Yang Chong could endure no longer. He swept the long spear and charged in a frenzy at Ling Han with the same old method. Ling Han had suffered once and would not take it head-on again unless he forged the iron sheet body. With a body like a lump of metal, he probably would not fear such a frontal exchange. He laughed loudly and declared, In 3 moves, I'll make you kneel and sing the conquer song. Bullsh! Yang Chong had learned through pain. He would not give Ling Han the chance to seize his spear again. He whirled the long spear in smooth, rapid circles. Ling Han dove straight in. Under the eye of truth, could mere 7th-layer spiritual ocean tier moves truly have no flaws? He slipped before Yang Chong by an inconceivable route, threw a punch, and said, A spear's strength lies in its reach and the immense power of sweeping strikes, but at close range, a long spear has little use. It becomes nothing but a burden. Yang Chong clenched his teeth and freed his left hand to block Ling Han's fist. Peng! He immediately staggered backward. Yet he was clever, intending to use that retreating momentum to widen the gap from Ling Han before reorganizing a counterattack. But how could such a small trick work before Ling Han? Ling Han followed like a shadow clinging to its master. Peng, peng, peng. 2 consecutive punches flew, and Yang Chong was sent tumbling through the air. Just as promised, only 3 moves.